Thanks so much for joining us today. We want to welcome you to Western Integrated Systems presentation of our solution to address the redaction of restrictive covenant language in the recorded documents. My name is Justine Bone, and I'm the Senior Sales Executive for Western Integrated Systems. On the call with me is Rob Cope, Sales Director, and Wendy Dexter, Senior Sales Engineer with ParaScript. In addition, we have Mitch McCarthy, Partner Account Manager with FileBound on the line. In the presentation, please feel free to put questions in the chat as we go along, or you can raise your hand. Well, we'll go ahead and get started with the presentation. For those of you who don't know, Western Integrated Systems has been helping clients for over 40 years to digitize, manage, and protect information. For this solution, we have chosen best-in-breed technology partners that together offer seamless and customizable end-to-end solution to meet the needs of every county. Our experienced team will be the main point of contact for this solution and will fill in the gaps in your existing program or handle the entire process. Speaking of the end-to-end solution, let's take a look at how Western intends to address the requirements of AB 1466. We're really excited to meet you where you are in the process and provide the elements that you're missing in your plan. What do we mean when we say we can meet you where we are? Where you are. Well, Western Integrated is not going to require that you rip and replace your existing system, and will maximize the work already done by plugging in the elements that to streamline and automate the process where needed. Western Integrated has a highly secure scanning center where we can image your paper records and convert microfilm and microfiche. If you are working on digitizing the historical records in-house, we are an elite partner with Fujitsu. And we also represent Canon and Kodak Alaris and can place scanners where needed. Once digitized, the records can pass through our advanced capture technology, ParaScript, which includes ICR and OCR, which will help to locate the restrictive words or phrases in the handwritten and machine print documents. This tried and true technology is used by the USPS to process the Daily Mail. Those documents that were identified to contain the offensive language are then imported into FileBound, our enterprise content management software. FileBound was recently named the 2022 leader in both ease of administration and vendor support by Infotech Research Group. This is where routing of the documents between the recorders and the county council occurs. The redaction is confirmed and burned in, and the custom cover sheet is automatically created and can be signed. It's at this point in the process that the documents can be exported for re-recording with another vendor, or we can store them in our non-traditional trusted system compliant cloud storage technology called RestoreVault. We have gathered the leading technology to assist with all aspects of the process. We offer high volume production scanners that work in the mailroom, all the way to smaller single transaction scanners and those that image large oversized plans and bound books. One of our technology partners, ParaScript, is the leading provider of intelligent character recognition that can read the historical handwritten documents and apply OCR at the same time to read the machine print in one pass. And let me tell you, that's a huge time saver when you're dealing with millions of documents. The system will refer to a list or database of offensive terms, and if located in the electronic document, will be highlighted and placed in a queue. Generally, this can happen with straight-through processing and no manual intervention. That is really one of the key factors here, because you're not going to have to touch the records to find the restrictive language. It's at this point that FileBound will pull the documents from ParaScript into a queue or multiple queues where the suggested redactions will be confirmed or modified and the cover sheet initiated. The recorder can then pass the suggested redactions and cover sheet to legal counsel with a push of a button. If storage is needed for the retention, of the new documents, we have Restore Vault in our toolkit that makes that easy and cost effective. Not only does Western Integrated Systems have the technology needed in the process, we also offer best-in-class services to make this as easy as possible on your already taxed team. We can pack up, index, and image existing paper, bound titles, and microfilm and microfiche to complete the digitization of your records. This will be done at our scanning center. We will be the one hand to shake, and we'll install and customize any solution to fit your county's individual requirements. Our highly experienced project manager, Cheryl Young, will develop and train your team on the new processes, which will ensure standardization and efficiency. She will also conduct ongoing compliance audits and can update information governance documents should that be a need for your county. Western's support team is headed up by Jeremy Alford and we will provide highly responsive first level support of the technology placed with your county. We will be there at the beginning, middle, and end of the process to ensure you're meeting your deadlines and the solution is working the way we all expect it to. Now that we've talked about the components of the solution, let's discuss how it works. Should you be at the beginning or just have the last group of paper records to convert, Western Integrated Systems can help by supplying the resources to come on site, pack, index, and transport, and then digitize your remaining records. We track the documents and other media throughout the process. If you require access while we have your records, we can supply the needed documents electronically within 24 hours. The team is HIPAA trained annually, and our staff has a long tenure working with highly sensitive documents in our secure facility. Western Integrated offers 3 levels of quality assurance to help meet the requirements of different doc types. We included in the quality assurance steps is manual page count and reconciliation to the scanner so that we ensure that there's no double feeds, and visual inspection of every page to ensure the best quality images. Once digitized, either by us or your existing vendor, images can be ingested into ParaScript in multiple ways. You can push them through a vendor portal. They can be uploaded from the county system of record, or they can be uploaded from external media. As long as the documents are in electronic format, they can be ingested into ParaScript easily. The technology accepts documents in multiple formats, structured and unstructured, and can work to get accurate results with variations on the quality of the images. That's going to be important when you're dealing with the very old historical documents. Documents can be ingested into ParaScript in bulk or paste at the county's discretion. And you may want to sort of manage that funnel for your group because once ingested, the system is going to utilize your throughput, and so you can run these through in the evening or after hours, which makes it convenient for you to not have that taxation on your system. And once the document's placed in ParaScript, the software will apply in one pass the leading ICR technology and OCR, and then we'll read the documents and compare them to the list of pre-designated restrictive words or phrases. ParaScript will also perform a contextual search and can be set to highlight the whole phrase or just the word found. If a title contains the restrictive language, it'll be placed in one queue that is pushed to the next step, and clean titles will be sent to another queue. It's anticipated that the goal of straight-through processing will happen, and only supervisors and administrators will every so often have to log into ParaScript to load more documents. Most of the work of the recorder and counsel will occur in FileBound. At this point in the process, we have run groups of documents through ParaScript, and clean titles have been separated from those with restrictive language. We've highlighted the key words or phrases in the document, and only those found to have the matching words or have been imported into FileBound for review and redaction. Once in FileBound, the keyer will find 3 folders: the original document folder, the processed or highlighted document, and finally one for the cover sheet. If redactions need a second review or the keyer wants to suggest a different redaction, that can happen easily. My little cursor. That can happen easily with workflow and annotations within FileBound. If the document is ready to be sent to the county council, it can be routed easily. Having both the recorder and county council in FileBound will allow for better tracking of what's in process, what has been reviewed and redacted, what's routed for further review, and what's been rejected as not requiring redaction. And as soon as the document is routed to council, a 90-day timer can begin. Should certain documents lag or fall out of compliance, notifications can be initiated automatically and be sent to multiple parties. The redactions can be modified, routed back to the recorder, or can be approved by council. If approved, the council can burn in the required redactions, complete the necessary updates to the cover sheet, and then can sign off on the redactions in FileBound. Once that happens, the recorder can receive the documents back to the recorder's office, or the file can be exported to a third-party system that would do the recording. Should you not have a vendor, Restore Vault is a great option for long-term archival storage of the recorded documents. And they can also remain in FileBound. If there's no questions, now that you've seen the high-level overview, without further ado, Rob, will you take over and start the demonstration?
I sure will. Thank you, Justine.
Thanks.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining today. And I will share my screen here and we'll get going. So this is an introduction to ParaScript. Just briefly, you are, just to encourage you, you're in very good hands because Western Integrated, of course, has been around since 1981. We have been around since 1996. And imaging capture is the only thing we do. So this is our focus. We have over 40 R&D staff here in our Niwot or Longmont, Colorado headquarters. So all of our development happens here locally. So we don't use any offshore staff or other services. This is our proprietary technology. So just wanted to encourage you that you're in great hands here. Our first client, by the way, was Apple back in 1990 and or 1990 with the if anyone remembers the Apple Newton. If you're old enough to remember that, then that was our first client looking at handwriting. The other thing is that the U.S. Postal Service and NCR, if you've ever deposited a check into an ATM, or if you've ever mailed a document that has a handwritten address on it, they think our technology is pretty cool too. So those are our two of our big clients that use our technology to recognize handwriting. So this is what I wanted to present about, the reality of document automation. Of course, we want to make sure that the data is accurate, that it's verified, and that the effort level is reduced. This is the whole idea around automation. So just to present that to you, why this is important is because we know that people are taxed with more to do and less time to do. The county governments is in. Sorry, I went on mute there for a second. Sorry about that. So we want to encourage you that this is going to help you reduce that time. This is just a scenario of, if you think about how intelligent document processing is accomplished. Right now, maybe it's being, done 100% manual. The goal is to progress here to, 70% automation and what we call assistive data entry. And then that's fine, but, depending on the bulk of documents that you have, that's going to take a lot of time and a lot of effort with manual recognition. So the goal really here is to move from this area, from 70%, to the ideal space of a 90% assisted data entry. And what we say is data science and machine learning can get you there. So this, again, relates to the fact that good people are hard to come by these days, right? Everyone's being asked to do more with less. And so we want to show you how that happens. This is an example, as Justine alluded to earlier, of our handwriting and machine print. And as she mentioned, this can happen in one single pass. So the great thing is you're having OCR and ICR happen at the same time. And I wanted to just show you what the art of the possible is here, because this is where this is really going to reduce the time. So you can see here, this is an example of machine print on the top. And you can see that our technology here, our software recognition engine, has discovered that each of these words is what they are. So the benefit of that is that, you don't have to send it through twice. You don't have to worry about, discovering information and trying to figure it out manually. Of course, there will be some exceptions to that. There are times when something is just illegible. But to encourage you, this is an example of the script that was provided by Contra Costa County. You can see here that we just asked it to find Contra Costa. Now, this is what I call kind of Abraham Lincoln writing, right? So this is very tough to recognize. But even with a small sample set, we were able to discover that, that field there. Same thing here with the word claim. And if you look closely, you can see the word claim there in the second sentence down here. So just very accurate. You can see how well this was able to discover that. Even with a small sample set, we were only given a few different pages. So just want to encourage you how accurate the system is. The next piece here is what we call trainable fields. And again, not really needed to know exactly what that means, but here's the benefit to you. Instead of giving the system a set term or set vocabulary, what we're doing here is just asking it to find those restrictive covenant language fields or areas. And you can see this is a very unstructured document, right? It doesn't have formatted fields. And what it's doing, instead of just looking for vocabulary, it's actually looking for context. So even with a small sample set, we're able to find this within these paragraphs. So you can see the system running here, and it's being trained with a very small sample set. So the advantage there is that you don't have to, worry about, oh, was it an Oriental rug or was it Black Street? You can see that it's taking the context and highlighting the area for review. This is using what we call NLP, or natural language processing technology, and trainable fields. So that's what we call it. Again, you don't need to really remember that, but just wanted to see what happens behind the scenes and how powerful this is. You can see that it's discovering, no matter what it says in the document, it will find this. So just wanted to present that to you. Are there any questions at this point that I can answer for anybody?
It looks like we had a question in the chat from Jacqueline about whether this solution is can be delivered on premise or is a cloud-based solution. And thank you, DJ, for answering her question in the chat. As DJ said, I'll just say this in case somebody missed it, that FileBound can be installed on premise or in the cloud, and ParaScript is a premise-based technology, but if you have the MS Azure or the Amazon AWS, you can load it onto your hosted server. So thank you for that, Jacqueline. Any other questions? Please feel free to unmute and jump in.
Can you explain what ICR is?
Yes, ICR, Intelligent Character Recognition. So instead of optical character recognition, which is basically just recognizing traditional machine print or recognize it in kind of a batch, this actually will look at handwritten characters. And so that's the difference between the two. Wendy, if you have anything to add on that. Anyway, this is just an example here. This is the last thing I wanted to show you. Here are documents that have come in. So we're presenting a folder, and we just called this AB 1466. Here's kind of a standard idea of how this would come into your system. You can see here are the originals, and then what we've done is brought them over into our engine. And then you can see that they're being processed. So you can see a side-by-side comparison of the original and then the document that has been recognized through our engine. This also gives you the ability to look at things and do a manual review before documents are exported. So just wanted to highlight that. Speaking of highlighting, you'll notice that what we did here in our first round is we did redact the language, but we decided to just highlight it and then let the FileBound process handle redaction. So just wanted to make that real clear there. So that's just an example of how documents are presented. Very easy to see, easy to use, and a lot of giving the user more a hands-off approach. That's typically it for what I wanted to share. Now I'll turn it over to Mitch at FileBound. We're back to you, Justine.
We'll go to Mitch at this point. Thanks so much, Rob.
Certainly.
And I just wanted
Thanks, Rob.
I'm sorry, Mitch, before you get started, I just wanted to mention again that the process within ParaScript will be essentially behind the scenes and extracting those documents with the restrictive language. So only those documents with restrictive language present or that's been found by the system will be populated into FileBound, which is the next step in the process. So sorry about that, Mitch, go ahead.
No, absolutely. Thank you. So as the documents get ingested in FileBound, we're going to walk you through a little bit of the redaction and counsel review process. So after ParaScript identifies the different documents, what it will do is pass the original and the process document over to us, and then we'll automatically initiate a workflow process to start the redaction on the front end. And so there's a couple different ways we can notify a user that there's new documents in their queue for review. As they log in, they can access their assignments queue. In this case, you can see there's a handful of documents that just kind of went through Rob's process that got passed along. And then what we can additionally notify the users via an automated email. So if you're not someone who's going to be in FileBound frequently, we can automate an email. The email will have a brief description of what has been assigned to them and then a link. And if they click on the link or if they click on the document here in the assignments queue, it'll basically take them to this screen here. And so you can see here on kind of the upper left-hand corner here, we're presenting you with the original document. In addition to that, we've presented you with a process. So this is where ParaScript had gone in and automatically highlighted some of the key areas that we thought would match the requirements. And then in addition to that, we've gone ahead and automatically generated an RCM cover letter. And a couple other things, we've automatically applied an RCM number, so we can leverage these numbers for tracking throughout the entirety of the process. And then we've also applied a date timestamp in terms of when this initially got submitted into Recorder review. But if we look at the cover letter here briefly, what we could do is, and again, this cover letter can be totally configurable to match the cover letter that would coincide with your county. And we could auto-populate these letters with a variety of information. We can just kind of put core information here that might be included on every cover letter, and we can make those kind of default. You can always go in and have some flexibility in editing those and adjusting them, but we can pre-populate it with that. And then in addition to that, we can pre-populate it with information that was passed along to us from ParaScript. So whether it's the batch name, batch ID, class name, etc., we can auto-populate the pages identified on and autofill these different eForms with that information as well. So we give you some flexibility in terms of how you want to generate those cover letters that you ultimately need. But as reviewing here, you can see in the upper right-hand side, I have a couple different options from this approval process. I can say that what was suggested here in the process, just removing this Caucasian race section is appropriate. Or I have an option, as you notice, to say, okay, maybe I need an additional redaction. So let's say hypothetically in this scenario, I think it would be appropriate to remove all of section A as opposed to just the Caucasian race portion. So I can kind of make some of those recommendations or suggestions. If I wanted to do that, I can go into this annotation. I can go in and maybe highlight the entire section if I wanted. And this is all kind of just a real simple drag and drop process. So I can kind of move that around, fit it wherever I need. And so we can kind of present this suggested redaction in that manner. Now, ultimately, if we need to go ahead and do a full redaction where we want to black that out down the road, we can do that. But obviously, during this kind of initial redaction process, we're going to want to maintain that highlighting so everyone can kind of see what it is we want to look at. But if I want to go ahead and say, let's adjust the suggested redaction or push that along, I can select adjust suggested redaction. And then what I can do is apply a note in here for the reasoning why I think we need to adjust what was automatically identified. So I can say, please strike section A. And say save and continue. And so what that can do is that'll automatically assign that document to another user, someone or a group of users that we've determined should be reviewing and approving or providing feedback on any of those kind of questionable redactions that we may have received. So I'm just going to log in here as a different user. And so again, we can kind of pass these documents along. Again, this user can get notified a couple different ways that there's a new doc in their queue. They can go into their assignments queue and see they have something new in the redaction process, or we can automatically generate that email that gets sent to them immediately. But again, I can go in here and kind of review this. And then what I can see here is, of course, I can have all the same views I had previously. I can look at the original in the process. But then I can also see, the comments or the suggestion. And then I have a couple different ways I can go about approving this. I can just cancel this process at this time, say this isn't valid. I can provide feedback to the reviewer. I can say, no, actually, I think we should strike, A, B, and C. Or I can simply say, nope, that's good, I agree, and submit to counsel for review. Again, we also try to give you some flexibility in terms of how we can pass these along. So if I think this might need to be reviewed by another individual, I can always hit reassign. And what comes up is a list of users. We'd kind of consider this an ad hoc route function where I can potentially bring someone else in on the process that maybe doesn't traditionally review these to take a peek at it. But again, we could apply security to this to make sure it's only the individuals that should have access to this type of document. But in this case, we're going to say, okay, yeah, I agree with the redaction. Let's go ahead and do that. And then we could go into the process and adjust that redaction. Or we can just kind of go into the workflow process and say, okay, this looks good. Let's go ahead and agree to strike section A and submit this to counsel for review. So we can submit that off to counsel for review, and that can initiate that counsel review process. So again, if we go in the assignments queue, we can see we have a new document in counsel review for this user. I can go in and review that. And then one of the things we've done here as we've gone along in this process is we've continually updated the status of where the document resides. So previously it would have been in redaction review or adjusted redaction. And now we've went ahead and updated it for counsel review. So it's an excellent aid in terms of updating the status to make sure that we can kind of track where all the documents are within all the processes in a very easy way. And beyond that, we've also automatically applied a date as to when it was sent to counsel. So as Justine mentioned previously, we can start to initiate different scheduled reminders or escalations to make sure that we're maintaining that 90-day threshold we have to get this submitted to counsel and approved within that window. So for example, we can set reminders at 30, 45, and 60 days. And so just to kind of remind the user or users that are assigned to this process that, hey, we're coming up against that deadline or that 90-day set time period where we need to get a response. But beyond that, now we've kind of initiated a new workflow process. One nice thing that is also a great feature is any given time, if you've been received an assignment within FileBound, and you can kind of see your different steps, you can always click on this map icon. And what this is I always kind of refer to this as a "you are here" map, but basically it kind of shows you how it kind of got into your queue and then where you could potentially go next. For example, I can approve, say this is approved by council. I can say there's an adjustment that should be required, or we can say no fix, no go. And you can kind of see some of those options over here when we kind of look at my different areas, or of course we have that flexible reassign option. So in this instance, we're going to say that, okay, we've reviewed the process document, we've reviewed the highlighting that occurred. We think this is ready to go. So we're going to say this is approved by council. So that, and I can put any note in here I want. We can say approve for section A. And continue, and then that can go to the next user in the process. And then in this instance, we'll kind of show you one last step here and a couple of other things that we can add to this process. I'm going to go back in as that admin user. And here in that council review process, we can see that document that's kind of been pushed along the way. And one thing we can do is as we're in the council review and we have that final approval and it needs to be sent to and ready to record, we can certainly push it that way. But another thing we can do as a part of this cover letter that was generated is we can capture and apply different signatures. Now there's a couple different ways we can do it. This form is totally mobile capable, so I can pull this up on my cell phone and simply sign it with my finger, or I can just do it sloppily with my mouse there. And then you can kind of print your name or whatever you want and then save those different signatures as a part of that form when you're ready to sign that off and push it on to the next step of the process. So once that's been captured and you're ready to go for the record, you can submit ready to record. And what we can do is generate this document into kind of a single document with the cover letter as the top page, and then the appropriate original and processed and approved highlighted sections within it. And then ultimately, as Justine said, it could be maintained in FileBound, or we can push that into your other point of record system that you may be using once that's officially been signed off on and fully approved. And so that was the scenario we just kind of wanted to walk you through today. Of course, this is very configurable and customizable, and I'd be happy to answer anyone's questions they may have.
There is a question in the chat.
Thanks, Rob.
Sorry.
Oh, sure. Let me go look in the chat. Yep, so I got a question in here from DJ around the assignments and the approval processes and if they're configurable to the county's specific needs. The answer is yes. So we've kind of established this demonstration as an outline based on our understanding of what some of these processes may look like, but they are completely configurable. So if you have additional steps that are required as a part of your approval process or additional reviews you want to include, whether that's a single user or multiple, we can definitely customize and configure the workflow process to adhere to those needs. So very flexible in that approval process in terms of changes. And then, of course, even if we ultimately start using the tool and we decide, hey, you know what, we want to adjust this or include other approvals or other individuals in this process, that's always available to you. It's not a defined requirement necessarily. We can work with each county to make sure that the approvals and workflows and cover letters are all fitting the needs of the county.
There was another question from Susan about if smaller counties place this offering, will it work as well as with a large county? And I'll answer that, Susan. And the answer is yes, because at this point, you're going to have this fantastic technology that's going to take the whole process from end to end. But we're going to start you at a pricing tier, because these technologies are priced by volume. So we're going to start you where you're comfortable for both technologies, which that can be on the lower end, or if you feel like your throughput for your county is going to be greater, we can start you at a higher level for the first year, and then sort of grow into the process over the course of the project. So we can increase the volume if the throughput is more than you initially thought. So the pricing is going to work well for smaller counties as well as the large ones, as well as the ability to grow into the full project, or the full capabilities of the project, should I say. And I wanted to ask you, Mitch, just to talk a little bit about the reporting capabilities, because I know that folks can get really robust reports on all the different statuses and volumes of documents that have gone through the process. So will you talk a little bit more about that?
Yep, my pleasure. So yes, within the tool, we do have a robust number of reports that can be made available to you. So obviously, every action within the system that is taken is tracked and auditable and reportable. So whether it's just a document view, add, edit, any sort of workflow approval process, it's all there. That raw data is all there, and we can present that in a variety of different ways that can be meaningful to you. So we have a variety of, audit and file reports. I think in this instance, what would be most beneficial would be a lot of the workflow reports we have. And this is where we can run a variety of status reports where I can, for example, look at specific workflow routes and doc types and steps and see where things are at in a particular process and understand how long it's been sitting on that particular step. As well as where it needs to go next, and then beyond that, we can provide you with a lot of different predictive analytics as well. So we obviously have all that raw data, and you can frequently run reports to see all documents that are on a specific step or at a specific point in time in the approval process. But beyond that, we can start to give you analytics in terms of how quickly you're processing documents, the amount of time it typically takes to get submitted to council, or the amount of time it gets a council's approval. And then we can start to kind of even analyze down the road what we need to do in terms of maybe adjusting or different areas within the process where we're experiencing a lot of bottlenecks. And we can kind of give you recommendations in terms of, should we potentially allocate different resources? Should we rethink how we're handling some of these processes? And give you some insight in terms of, how you can even improve the process down the road with some of those reports we make available to you.
Thanks, Mitch. That was great. I think the reporting capabilities are going to be key in sort of reporting the productivity over the years of this project, because I think each county is going to take some years to get through the millions of documents. So that's great. It looks like we have a question about what's different and better about the Western offering. And Susan, if you just hold on to that question, I'll get to that in a moment. But Cheryl also offered a question: if the county is aware of metadata issues in the system of record, such as a mistyped grantor or guarantee name, can ParaScript do a lookup against the system of record and flag discrepancies on the image at the same time it's looking for the restrictive covenant language? That was a mouthful.
Yes, we can, is the answer.
I mean, do it all. Yes. So
great question.
So that's a lookup to the system of record, and ParaScript has the ability to do that database lookup.
Correct. Absolutely.
So I think there's one county that has an issue with the APN number, or the name on the index is not the same. So that ParaScript would be able to help right that wrong, I guess you could say.
That's correct.
Do we have any other questions before we move out of the demo? Okay, well, I'll go ahead and share the last of the presentation here. I think that's the one I want. Let me. Okay, let's try this again. Sorry. Give me just 1 second. I apologize. I don't think I'm sharing the right window, so let's. Okay, I think I've got it here. Okay, so okay, maybe I don't. So the end of the presentation is just a big thank you, and to talk about the remaining issues, which are who are you going to use to be the one handshake to put all of these pieces together. And we are the best company to work with because we not only have the experienced people, we're going to be there from the beginning to the end. We can help with pieces of your plan that you're missing, or we can, like I said, do the end-to-end solution for you. And we have Cheryl Young, who is our fantastic project manager and can help with the records, information governance documents. And Jeremy Ulford is our support manager, and he's fantastic and will provide that fantastic support, not only during the implementation, but also after, providing that first level of support. So we just want to thank you for attending today, and we'll be reaching out to you in the next week or so to get your feedback, and also to see if there's some areas of your program that we can provide help or improve your process. So thanks again, everybody.
Thank you, Justine.
Justine, there's a couple more questions in the
Oh,
chat.
I'm sorry. Let me get back to that. Funny when you don't use 2 monitors and then you do. It's this isn't how I practice this. Okay. So let's see, what's the other question? How does it look if our files are in file cabinets or microfilm? So as I mentioned, Western Integrated has a scanning center. So if you need help digitizing your paper files, you can utilize us. I know that some counties have existing vendors, and we can work in phases as well. So if you're working on the older documents as a last phase, and those aren't digitized, they're still in books, bound books, or other media, we can help to digitize those last remaining documents, or we can help you digitize all of your recorded documents, if that's where you're at. Thanks for the question. Sorry about that. Did I answer everything here? Think so. Okay, well, again, thank you so much for attending, and we look forward to talking with you soon. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.